Hello, everyone. Hello. Hey, Lubaba. How are you, everyone?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Welcome to the meeting. Today, we're going to have a couple of topics. So, welcome, everyone. And we have a couple of new faces, I think, three or four. If they join, then maybe they can introduce themselves and then we will take it from there. So I think if I have the list with me. So for the couple of minutes, we will introduce Dr. Ahmed Dawanur. He is a professor or associate professor at Mayo Clinic. And then we have the fellows, Muhannad Al-Hassan, Osama Ahmed, Khulud Ahmed, and Amna Al-Khadir. If any one of these new fellows are here, please go ahead and give us 1 minute an introduction about yourself. So let's see. I don't see. No. All right, they will join later. So this is the agenda for the meeting. We want to be efficient in our meeting. So hopefully within the coming few minutes, we will talk a little bit about the concept of circles, and then the first team will discuss or present research methods. After that, we will talk about prior abstracts, and we'll take it from there, basically. So if the first team is ready to present, I think we can go ahead. Ali, do you know who's gonna be presenting?
Yes. So welcome all to the Telegeriatric research meeting. Today, Dr. Abu Dhar and Hadil are going to present study design. I'm sorry, Dr. Abu Dhar and Dr. Hiba will present the types of study design. Then Dr. Hadil will present briefly about SPSS and will demonstrate basic skills regarding SPSS. So I hope you enjoy the.
Excellent. So before Abu Dhar and his team will present, let me take you through the new concept of circles. So as we said last meeting, we have different levels of comfort skills level set skill sets. Some of you will have early or no skills at all, or maybe just early skills, and some might have advanced skills. Let's say take one example, the Excel sheet and Google sheet. These are spreadsheets. We put the data in, and then we can manage this data using some tools within Excel or Google Sheet, and then we can extrapolate or get some information out of this data, get some graphs out of this data, and then present this data in a different format, let's say PowerPoint. So some of you might not have the actual encounter with Excel, or maybe they used it very minimally in their experience. So I'll take the first one. We sent you a video about the basics of Excel. The ones that who don't have an idea, they can look at the video, follow the steps, and get a grip on the basics of that skill. For those who have the experience in Excel, one or more of you might jump in and work as moderator or tutor or mentor in that circle. So if you open the circle, for instance, here in the circle manager or mentor role, you can add your name in that section if you feel you have the comfort and the expert and the experience using Excel and you can teach, for instance, or you can answer questions. Here, I suggested some leader in this circle. Let's say Shumi is good with Excel. So I suggested her here. If she is available, let's say, and she is willing, she can go hit the pen here and then add her name in this area. Just an example. And then hit done. She will be the main person for that circle. Could be more than one person, could be two leaders or two managers for that circle, two or three mentors for this skill set. And for other people who wants to learn the Excel further and further, they can just contact this manager or this group of managers to ask questions and have communications as far as learning the advanced skills in this circle. Then we will go to the next circle. Let's say knowledge improve or Word or PowerPoint and so on. If you have an idea or you have an experience in certain area you want to teach certain group, you can add or suggest a circle. Let's say you have a good skills with Spanish language, let's say. So you can start a circle for Spanish language and you can be the moderator for that. And whoever wants to learn about Spanish, they can join that circle and they can communicate with you. You can work on that together. This is basically the idea of getting you working together, the one who have the expert and the one who want to learn about that set of skills or topic. Any questions? You can raise your hand if you have questions. If not, we'll go to the next section. So, Abu Dhar, if you are ready, you can start and stop, and you can start the presentation for your part.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Alaikum salam.
Today, Red Team will touch briefly about the study design and basic of SPSS. So, Dr. Hiba and I will talk briefly about study design, and Dr. Hadid will talk about the other section. So, let's start. Okay, so do you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. So types of study designs. Red Team Fellow and presenters, Dr. Hiba Abu Alama and Abu Khazin. First of all, a definition and steps of research. What do we mean by research? Research is a systemized effort to gain new knowledge. So it is an effort done by a teamwork. After we've done everything, we gain new knowledge that might help people or whatever we did the research for. The steps in research started by collecting and review literature, identifying and prioritize health problems. So Like I will give example. If you are going to conduct a research, say in Sudan, it makes sense to do your research like in malaria or in schistosomiasis. That's a health problem, real health problem in Sudan. And it doesn't make any sense if you conduct a research in babesiosis or something like this in Sudan. So just you will waste your time, your effort, and your money. So you have to prioritize health problems in the area that you want to conduct a research on it. Then decide your aims and objectives. Why you are going to do a research? What is your goals? What is your aims and what is your objectives? Planning, methodology, and including study designs. And today our talk is going to be about the study designs. So we'll talk about it in details later on. Then execution and doing what you plan to do, put it in presenting data and classify it, then analyze your data, test significance and hypothesis, and if it is okay, report writing and disseminate your report. So you will get benefit from your research and you will get benefit from that as well. Okay, hierarchy or pyramid, it is just orders of designs or study designs from least valuable to the top valuable one. So ideas, opinions, editorials, and details, this kind of study designs. Then we have case series and case reports, and we will talk about each one in details. Just I'm going to mention them, and we will take each one separately, and we'll talk about it in details. Cross-sectional studies, case control, cohort, and RCTs, and systemic reviews and meta-analysis. So what do we mean by study designs? The study design is a specific plan or protocol for conducting the study, which allows the investigator to translate the conceptual hypothesis into an operational one. That's what we mean by study design. So in a study, we have many directions. If the study going backward in time, we call it a retrospective study. If it is going forward in time, we call it prospective study. And if it asking a questions, what is happening now, like a cross-sectional study, as an example for asking questions, what is going on now. So we have this decision tree. It is just dividing a study based on like interventions. If we have done any intervention, we call type of study is experimental study. If we haven't done any interventions, we call it observational study. So we do not intervene, just we observe. Experimental studies subdivided based on randomizations in two types. If we randomize the study, we call it RCT or randomized controlled trial study. If we do not randomize, we call it non-randomized controlled trial study. And Dr. Hiba, she's going to talk in details about experimental studies later on. So on the other hand, if we do not intervene, we call the study observational study. And also we can subdivide it into many subdivides based on like comparison groups. If we have two or more groups and we make a comparison between these groups, we call it analytic studies. If we do not compare these groups or we just observing, we call it a descriptive study. Analytic study also is subdivided based on the direction of study. Like uh, if we have a study group and they are exposed to some kind of exposure now, and we are tracking them in time and we are looking for the outcome in the future, this kind of study is called cohort study. It is prospective, usually prospective, but sometimes cohort might be a retrospective study, but usually it is prospective study. In other case control study, if we have the outcome right now and we are looking backward for the exposure that might happen in the past, we call it case control study. And as I mentioned before, if exposure and outcome are happening right now, we call it cross-sectional study. That's it. Just the decision tree, descriptive studies like case report, case series, and population studies, analytic studies, cross-sectional, case control, and cohort. Experimental studies subdivided based on randomization, blinding, design, or area of study. If it is randomized, it is randomized control trial. If it is not randomized, it is non-randomized control trial. Blinding, single blind, double blind. So if it is per design, like simple design or crossover study, per field or area of a study, field, lab, or clinical. So now we are going to touch briefly each one of these studies. We will start with case report and case series because they are share some similarity between two of them. A case report study is an in-depth or intensive study of a single individual or specific group, while a case series is a grouping of similar case studies, case reports together. So case report is just single individual study or specific group. And if we're grouping these single individuals or specific groups together, we call it case series study. And it is useful for describing the potential effectiveness of new interventions, for describing the effectiveness of interventions on unusual diagnosis, and for describing unusual response, either good or bad to intervention. Okay, so each study has advantage and disadvantage. So we are talking about the advantages of case reports or case series study. It is easy to be done. It is excellent at identifying unusual situations, and it is good for generating hypotheses. But disadvantages, it is short term, and it uh, investigators self-select or selection bias, okay, and there is no control on it. So that's samples of disadvantages of these studies. So population is, what do we mean by population study? Population study in the various field of healthcare, a study of a group of individuals taken from the general population who share a common characteristics such as age, sex, or health conditions. This group may be studied for different reasons, such as the response to drug or risk of getting a disease. So we call it a population study. Okay. The other type of observational studies is analytic, and we say analytic because we compare two or more groups together. And as I mentioned before, we have three types of analytic observational studies. It's cross-sectional, case control, and cohort based on the where we go in time. If we go backward, we call it uh, retrospective. Going forward, we call it uh, prospective. And if we are asking a question regarding what is happening right now, I mean, exposure and outcome are happening together. We call it cross-sectional study. Okay, we will start with cross-sectional study. Cross-sectional study, we collect data at a single point in time, and it describes associations between the exposure and outcome, and it is good for prevalence of diseases. And think it like a snapshot of what is happening now. So the objectives of cross-sectional study, it used to assess the burden of disease or health needs of a population and are particularly useful in informing the planning and allocation of health resources. So like I have an example for this, like if a group of researchers studying developmental psychology, they might select groups of people who are different age, but investigate them at point in time. So the main point here, if we investigate a group of people in the same point in time, that the cross-sectional study. Cross-sectional study, as we mentioned, each study has advantage and disadvantage, or strength and weaknesses. It is quick and cheap. Weaknesses, it can't establish causality. It is just for association. It can't tell about incidents, or it can't study diseases. This is some weaknesses for this study. The second one of analytic observational study, it is case control study. Case control study start with people who have the disease, and we call them cases that they have the outcome already, and we compare them with a control group that they do not have the outcome, and we look backward in time to find any exposure that might happen in the past. So case control study, it is a retrospective study. It's to find out association between the exposure and outcome. It has other name, retrospective study, as I mentioned. Uh, Unit of study is case and control. The study question, what has happened in the past, and direction of inquiry, it is we have the outcome and we are looking backward for the exposure. This should be E, not F. So we are looking backward for the exposure. The study group are two types, two study groups, case and control, and we are looking backward for exposed or not exposed. Case control study also has strengths and weaknesses. It is good for outcome, can examine relation of exposure to disease, useful to generate hypotheses, fast and cheap, and it provides odds ratio. Weaknesses, it can't measure incidence, prevalence, or relative risk, can only study one outcome. We can't study more than one outcome per study, case control study, and it has susceptibility to bias. I will stop here, and Dr. Hiba will continue from cohort study for.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Dr. Abadar, for this presentation. My name is Hiba. I'm going to present the cohort and the random clinical trial, sorry. So for cohort, we begin with a disease-free individual. So we just regular people, and we want to assess exposures, certain exposure that could be more than one exposure. and we follow people for a certain time. And then we can look for the relative risk from this exposure. What's the outcome here at the end of the study? So cohort study, it's prospective usually, but it could be retrospective. And where here we go back on time and assess, looking for certain exposure and other outcome. It's saying it's very confusing with a case control, but the different in my, what I understand is that in case control, the control, you don't look for the exposure, you know, not like in retrospective cohort, you have to assess for the exposure. It's very important. So you don't, what I mean is for your control group, you shouldn't match them to their exposure status in case control. That's what I mean. So usually it has a control group and can determine cause and incidence of the disease, as well as identify risk factors. Generally expensive. You need fund for this, and time consuming and difficult to carry out because we have lots of follow-up usually. What we can get benefit of this study, the objective of it, to find out association and to assess risk ratio and relative risk, and find out attribute risk. So the strengths of this study can measure multiple outcomes. As we said, we can have multiple exposure and looking for outcomes for this exposure over a period of time. So that's a benefit. So if you want or you have hypothesis about certain thing that's this certain exposure can make an outcome, you can just assess this and see. But as we said, it's need time. Can adjust for confounding variables. You can control confounding, and can calculate attribute risk. And attribute risk, it's mean the difference between the control, the exposed and the unexposed. And the weakness is expensive, time consuming, and can't study rare outcome because usually it's come in a large group, and you can miss rare disease or a rare event. Example of cohort study is the nurse health study. Is a large cohort study. It's been in the 1976, long running analysis of women health, and they investigate the potential long-term consequence of the use of oral contraceptive. And I will mention one of the findings that they found, that they don't find an association between oral contraceptive and breast cancer, for example. Experimental studies, this is the step in the right side. We just doing our protocol before we conduct our study. So we have our lines, and then select a population and do our control and experimental control, and we can manipulate intervention. What does it mean? You can do something like changing your arms in the study, and sometimes there's the patient can act as its own control, which is a benefit. It's called crossover. So as per experimental studies, as per randomization, there is a randomized clinical trial and non-randomized clinical trial. And as per blinding, we have single or double. As per design, we have simple or crossover. As I mentioned here, the patient act as is its own control. As per area, it could be helpful in field, clinical lab. Quality of experimental study, randomization, blinding, control, and crossover. And this is random. RCT is an ideal study, it's the fancy one. We have a control here, and a clinical trial is a comparative, prospective experiment conducted in human subjects. Any kind of control is better than no control. It could be like animals control. in this case. It's better than nothing. Patient can serve as on control, crossover, it's called. Blinding. So factors that can affect the evaluation of outcome should not be permitted to influence the evaluation process. This is the benefit of blinding. So we have a single blinding and double blinding. Single blinded, or one part is going to just be blinded, or is it the patient or the investigator or the observer? Double blinded, which is the ideal, both of them, they're blinded, and this is here we reduce bias, especially the observer bias. So you don't want, to report what you want to be true. Experimental study, we have we have a strengths and weakness. The strengths, it's ideal study designed for established causality, and as we said, it assists like too many exposure if you want, and the outcome. Weakness, ethical issue, because sometimes you can't stop people for taking hypertensive drug to act like a placebo. This won't be a good example here. So we have study questions in general, and we have for every study questions, we have an appropriate design. So for example, if we want to assess the prevalence or incidence, we go for a cross-sectional survey, which give you a snapshot of what's happening at that certain time in that certain population. And incidence could be also measured in longitudinal survey, which is same as cross-sectional, but more long. And we have a causation, risk, and prognosis. This is to assess this, we can use case control study or cohort study and RCT. The type of question that we would like to answer: the treatment efficacy, diagnostic test evaluation, cost effectiveness. We can use the RCT, which is the ideal. It's very good in addressing the answering these questions. And this is the hierarchy. You can start your hierarchy. It depends on your finance. If you have money, just go with a big one. If you have fun, RCT. If you observing something, you can start from case report or case series, and then go further until you see if really there is a real association and causality, or it just by random, it happened. And usually I want to comment the case report epidemiology, the public health, in epidemiology, they report cases of infectious disease on a daily basis. For example, if we have a meningococcal case, we need to, the local health, the lab or the physician need to immediately address this one single case to the local health, so they can conduct an investigation and prevent an outbreak from happening. So thank you very much, and I hope that's helpful. And if you have any question, me and my colleague, Dr. Abazar, are ready.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hiba and Dr. Abazar. This is really great, and we really appreciate your effort, your time. You did a great job. Good information, very, very useful. And just a quick comment, in your future, when you get into residency, the first year or second year, you will be asked to do some research work. So I don't expect you to go up to the RTC, but at least you can start with a case control. So while you are in your residency the first year, each case, put in mind, maybe it's a unique case. If you find a unique case, maybe you can talk about it and present it and make a poster or whatever. But in general, this is a good presentation. Thank you so much, both of you. For the rest, if you have questions, please use chat, and then team leaders can organize this so that we can be efficient. Let me introduce Dr. Ahmed Dawanur Abdurrahim is an associated professor. And if you can stop sharing the screen, Abazar, thank you. So Dr. Ahmed, he is a nephrologist and by training, and he did fellowship in his clinic. He's currently in Minnesota. So welcome. If you can give us a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. You hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be with you today. Assalamu alaikum. And for those who don't know me, my name is Ahmed Dawanur Abdul Rahim. I'm internist, nephrologist, and clinical pharmacologist, assistant professor of medicine here at Mayo Clinic. I did my residency in Howard University Hospital. So, and really, thank you for the two speakers. And before that, I thank also my colleague, my patch, Dr. Nadir. We have a nice time in Wad Madani. We graduated from Jazeera School of Medicine. Really, the idea of fellowship is great. And the participant, I think they are doing a great job. And any interaction at any level, it adds to your coming really careers. So one of the simple, I hear the two speakers, they mentioned and very good, they did a very good presentation, and they also, at this level, we need to have a good grasp of epidemiological and statistical methods. For example, and as Nader said, our ability to read and write scientific articles, and also our ability to write a research grant. That is the basic things we can grasp at this level. At the same time, as you know, for any physician, he has to have the good grasp of epidemiological and statistical methods simply. And I look at the curriculum, it was covered a very good concept. For example, bias and causal inference, confounding, mediation, inference, and other advanced concepts like inferential statistics. And by the way, like looking at the inferential statistics, when we do it right and we look carefully at our study methods, it could give us an accurate result as good as the descriptive ones. As I speak earlier, any level of interactions will add a lot. And 1 year of fellowship is a great time, but it will be just the start of it. And any level of publication is welcome. And for any successful doctor, he has to publish. And to get your name up there, you have to publish. And also, like we study medicine in school, we read textbook, but that is not enough. So the next step is generation of data and the process to be the owner of data. One thing, I want you to have a holistic approach to what you are doing right now. Because we say research. So what is research? You look at the whole spectrum of research. You look at the clinical and the basic.
Ahmed, we lost your voice.
Okay, are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes. So one thing I want you to look at is to look at the research like bird view, holistic approach, research. So you look at the clinical and basic. So most of you have been exposed to the clinical research, and I'm sure one of you one day will publish in a high tier, high impact factor journal like New England Journal of Medicine. We hope that. And there is other also high impact factor like Nature. I mentioned these two things because I want to mention the two spectrum of research, which are clinical and basic, and between them is translational. So for those of you who are want to pursue research or do clinical research, the only thing to master and to lead the knowledge is to excel in research. For example, we have a lot of successful physicians in Sudan, a lot of topic of research, but we have no like well-equipped research center for the basic, for discovery. If discovery started in Sudan, we will be known, because very small countries in the Middle East or elsewhere, they publish and generate, and they are well known. So right now, my advice to you is take it the whole thing, basic, translational, and clinical research, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed. Yeah, I agree with you. So, and the idea of the fellowship is to train you so that you have the skills and you can produce. And when you are in a situation where you can join a lab, or where you are doing your residency, or maybe even when you are an attending, finished your residency during your fellowship or in your practice, you have the tools in your mind. If you want to do research, you can do that easily. During this COVID, we jumped to the virtual or this online research activity or program, because we cannot go into the actual lab or actual hospitals to look up chart and so forth. So this is just a modified version of what usually you do if you are in a research academic institution. You will join a group, you will be in a lab, or you will be seeing patients, reviewing their chart, and doing other extra encounter in that level. But for us, we will try to do or to learn what we can using this environment, virtual environment. But again, thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed, and very well said. Let me introduce a couple of new fellows, Dr. Osama Ahmed and Dr. Amina. Please, Dr. Osama, a couple of minutes, and then followed by Amina Al-Khidr.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Osama. I have graduated from School of Medicine from Sudan, University of Kasala, and I finished my step 1 and step 2, and I did master degree at UMass, Lowell, and Massachusetts.
Thank you so much and welcome. Dr. Amna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Hello everyone. I'm so happy that I joined you, and I hope that we will learn a lot of things and we will improve our research knowledge together. And I'm Amna Al-Khidr. I graduated from Khartoum University in 2015. I finished my internship in Sudan. Currently I'm in Saudi Arabia, and I did my step 1 and step 2 CPA. And I applied for residency last year, but I got interviews, but unfortunately I didn't match. So I would like to improve my skills and to improve my decision. Thank you.
Thank you so much and welcome. And our goal is to improve our application, and hopefully every one of you will match this year. So there is one question in the chat that I was asking about if you can elaborate more on, is it case control? I think so, but oh, crossover, sorry.
Can I jump in?
Crossover, yes, please, Dr. Ali. You have another part,
Okay.
I think, but Dr. Ali, go ahead.
Okay. First, we would like to welcome Dr. Ahmed Abdurrahim and the new fellows. You are all welcome, and we are honored to have you, Dr. Ahmed, and the new fellows. And thank you for the great points you Okay. Well, going back to the chat box, I see that Lubaba has asked about crossover studies and maybe given an example. Dr. Hiba has touched on that, but if I can add on that point, so if you want to assess a new drug, for example, a new antihypertensive drug, so you have the two groups, group A and group B. You start with drug, the specific drug for group A, and then the second group will have the standard of care or the placebo. Then you're going to cross over. The second group will have the new antihypertensive, and the first group will have the standard of care of placebo. I see that Malaz is not hearing me well. Can you hear me all?
Yes, we can.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. So you start with the first group, group A, and give them the specific drug, and group B will have the placebo, and then you're going to cross over. The first group, group A, will have the placebo, and the second group will have the specific drug. It's important to know that there must be a washout period for that type of studies, because some drugs have longer half-life, or maybe that the effect will be carried on. So that's the basic idea about cross-section, a crossover with regards to the randomized control trial. Does that make sense?
If you
Lubaba?
allow me, Dr. Ali, I just want to apologize for
Yes.
all of you because the answer I submit is for cross-sectional. Please, that's the example I give for the cross-sectional. Pardon me for that. I don't want to confuse all of you. I understand the question wrongly, so thank you for explaining.
Don't
No
worry
worries.
about that. I hope now you can understand all. And maybe Dr. Hiba, if you want to add something, please do it.
Actually, I don't have to add anything because what you said, it explained crossover, which the patient exactly as work as its own control. And as you mentioned, the most important is the wash out period, which is determined by the observer and according to the drug, when exactly it's gonna be out of your body. It depends on what you're studying. So nothing to mention more as.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ali and Dr. Hiba. My exact point was the piece of like the patient himself is going to be the control and study of the research. So thank you so much for explaining that.
Thank you, everyone. So please, if Ali, you can look at the chat if there is more questions. In the meantime, maybe we can jump into the next section where the other presenter will go over, I think, some tutorial or some tools.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to give a brief overview for SPSS tool. So this is an introduction to SPSS. SPSS is an abbreviation for a statistical package for the social sciences, and it's a tool beside other tools for management, processing, and analysis of statistical data acquired from social sciences like research and survey. And the other tools, like we can mention like the R system, it could be used for research too. Originally, SPSS launched in 1968 by SPSS Incorporation, but there was many updates and many versions after that. I think the last version is 26. Who used SPSS? It's used by market researchers, health researchers, survey companies, government entities, education researchers, marketing organizations, and data miners. And what are the functions of SPSS? There are many functions. For example, it's a basic statistical functions like we can acquire frequencies, cross-tabulation, and bivariate statistic. Also enables the use of modular program, which assist in building predictive models using advanced statistical.
I'm sorry, Hadil.
Yes.
If I can, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think you didn't share the slide. I believe that you
I'm
have
sorry.
slides, right? So maybe Dr. Nader can give you permission to share your screen to better
Okay.
follow you. Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Okay.
So here, can you see the screen? No?
Yes, we can.
Okay. These are the functions of SPSS. As we mentioned before, basic statistical functions, modular program for building predictive models using advanced statistical procedures, and also analytics feature of the SPSS will help to uncover the responses, the open-ended survey questions, responses, and also SPSS has visualization designer program allowed to create a wide variety of visuals like density chart and so on. And SPSS is useful for data documentation, provide solution for data management, such as case selection, create drive data, and perform file reshaping. So what are the statistical methods that could be applied in the SPSS tool? It's descriptive statistic, such as frequencies, cross-tabulation, descriptive ratio statistic. And we have bivariate statistics, such as analysis of variance, ANOVA, and means, correlation, and non-parametric test. And we have numeral outcome prediction, such as linear regression, and we have prediction for identifying groups, such as cluster analysis and factor analysis. So when we come to application of SPSS, I will give a brief example to so we have an example of we can say like a student who have their exam result, and maybe 20 or 10 students, and then we start here by using the tool to enter the data, then we analyze the data. Sorry.
So I'm gonna jump in while you are doing this. So in SPSS, we have 3 window views or 3 views. If you look at the bottom on the left side, she is on the variable view. This is where you want to identify your variables and specify the characteristic of each variable. Let's say age. So age is a number. So it's what type of variable you will have a character, a number. And then name, it's a text. So you want to ask the student name, you want to select the type is a text type, something like that. So this view, and then if she click on the right view, this is a data view where you have your input from the survey, or you put your own data, or if you bring it from Excel, for instance, it will be shown here. So go ahead, sorry, Hadi.
Okay, so as Dr. Nadir explained, and further we have this order bar and we have task bar. So in the name, in this column, there is specific laws that applied here. It should be without a space and without special character. So as I said in our example, we have a student with exam result. So we give them a special ID or even just their name. So we can say, for example, it's interview ID. As you can see, I should we should just write it without a space and without a special character. The type of this is numeric because we'll use numbers to identify those students, and the weights is used to specify the maximum characters that will be used here, and the decimal is the number of decimal places. The label is just as the names, but we can apply special character, we can add the spaces, so we can say, we can write interview, can write interview ID, and the values is the options we have. We don't have options here, we just have numbers. The missing is referred to if we have any number of data that is missing, or number of unapplied responses. And here we have the alignation. It could be, this is just for the writing, right, center, or in the left. And the measurement, we have different types of measurement according to the data type. If we have numerical quantitative data, so it is a scale. If it is qualitative data, it could be ordinal, which is we'll discuss this point later, or nominal. For here, we can say it's scale for now. It's not a scale, sorry. It is a nominal. The other kind of variable that we have is the scores of this student, and it's also numeric. And here you can write student scores, and and the type of measurement is a scale for sure. And other information that we have, or variable, it could be the gender of those students. Okay. And the gender is not it should be entered as value, because we have options here. So we can refer to male student as to give them the number 1, and female student we can give them number 2. So, and for the measurement, it is categorical data, so we can choose nominal. The other thing, if we ask the student if they did they study before the exam or not, so we can refer to this as a study. So here under the label, we can enter the complete question, the whole question. Did you study before the exam? And we have values, of course, for this kind of question. We can give 0 for those who respond with no, and we can give 1 for those who respond with yes. So when we came to measure, so this measure is ordinal because it is categorical. It's either it's qualitative, it's categorical data, but there is order, there is ranking here, yes or no. That's why we give order. If the data type is categorical but without ranking, like gender, like religious affiliation, like country, we describe it as nominal. But if there is order, like educational level, like level of satisfaction, we describe it as ordinal. If it's numeric, we give it the measurement of a scale. So here our variables, we came to data entry. For example, as it appears in the first row, you can see. So the interview ID for the student, just you can enter their names, or we can add it as numbers. So And we have the scores from the data that we gathered. So the scores of the student could be like, you can see the decimal, and the gender, we gave like, we have the first student could be a male, and the second student female, a female and a male. We enter the information that we gather from our survey. And for the questions that we asked them about, did they study before the exam or not? So we can add the value, as we said before, like 0 and 1. 0, 1, the reply for the question. So here's the data. The data is entered. So then we can go to apply the statistical method that we want to apply. We can use this icon, analyze. If you want to gather some information, like for example, the scores of the student scores, the mean and the standard deviation from this score. So we choose analyze descriptive statistic frequencies, and we can just drag the student score here, and we choose this option, statistic, and we can then choose the options like mean, median, mood if you want, and standard deviation. And when we press continue, we can allow to have some chart, like you can say bar chart. So the result will appear here in different view. We have the mean for the data, median, mood, and standard deviation. The SPSS will do the whole calculation, and even we can have the bar chart to show the data. There's other uses. It will be for the data, to analyze. If you want to, like for example, to correlate between the gender and the scores, or for example, we can use also the analyze, and we can use the option correlate between two variables. For example, we can correlate between scores of the student, and we can say if they study before the exam or no. And here you can see the correlation. If so, we can see if the study before the exam is useful or no, depending on the number one. It's called Pearson correlation, because correlation, it gives us the clue that if there is a relation between the studying before the exam and the result of the exam. So here we can interpret the value. One is positive one, there is a correlation, positive correlation between studying. If there is 0, if the result was 0, that means there is no correlation. And if it's -1, that means there is negative correlation, like studying cause failing or something. So there are many features of this, of the SPSS. This is in brief some of the important features. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so
Hadid,
much.
for
Yeah,
this.
go ahead, Ali.
I'm sorry, Dr. Nader.
Okay.
I would like to thank Hadid for this very nice demonstration. And also I see that someone is asking chat box. That's why I just in. So Sulafa was asking about whether with type or decimals pop up automatically, or you put it before entering your variables. So if you can answer, Hadid, or maybe I can do it if you are not. It pop up automatically, and as you see, while Adil was presenting, it pop up automatically. I would like to add one point that you don't need the decimals as some variables. For example, the gender and the if you don't have the scores with decimals also, because it makes the presentation very crowded and don't know how to say it, but you can forget about the decimals in some areas, some variables. Thank you, Hadid, again. And if you have any other questions, these fellows jump in or just use the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hadil and Dr. Ali. This is really great and very useful. And again, SPSS is one tool that's out there. We can use it for the purpose of this fellowship. But if you go to certain institutions, they may use a different tool, but with a similar objective. It's like buying a car. You can buy Honda, you can buy Toyota or something else. So there is STAT, there is the JUMP, and the new one is R. It's a very powerful tool. So for us, we will stick with SPSS, and the concept will be the same. So it's basically the data view where you put your data as a spreadsheet similar to what we have here. You identify the variable, and then you put the data for each record or each person or each item. And then out of this, you can generate some statistical results using the tools with Analyze and so forth. Thank you. Yes, Dr.
Thank you, Gil, and thank you, Nadir. This is a very nice software. Have you, Nadir, have you experienced with JUMP file if it is opened by SPSS? I didn't hear you.
Sorry, I assume I did not use it, but I assume there is a way to transfer the same data from JUMP to SPSS to R. And the way I think it's just downloading the file into a readable file, similar to what we have here, the data, the variables and the data inside. And then you can import that data into JUMP, and vice versa. If you want to transfer data from JUMP, you export that into a readable file, and then SPSS will read that file. So it's doable, but I did not do it, if I want to answer your question specifically.
The other thing is that with this new software, we need ones that are equipped to deal with a lot of data. For example, right now, our research, we can have data for example, COVID-19 or Alzheimer, or we have a data that it could be dealt with JUMP or this software presented by Hadil. For example, sometimes we have, I want to throw it out there and just to think about it. The data for DNA sequencing, for example. When you sequence a DNA, you have a lot of data. So is this software equipped and can deal with that? And I think it does. So learning such, or start learning such a good software will help us down the road. And really, it comes to when you are for example, a principal investigator, or you are running your research, you are gonna, the main thing is how good are you in mastering your tools. Of course, all of you are well, master, for example, Microsoft Office, no doubt about that. But then it comes to the question where you know this software well or not, because how to deal with the data is really a big issue. For example, the data you have, you can answer a question and go and present it in, for example, international conference. But other people are looking to your data differently. For example, we have epidemiological professor here, and he was presenting data. This is like 20 years ago about ladies who has total abdominal hysterectomy and bilateral salpingioaphorectomy. So he's speaking about the procedure and how it affects in a different way. But after the conference and after the discussion, and his data are telling something different, just survival of those who have oophorectomy is different from those who haven't. So sometimes you are using these sophisticated software, looking at your data, for example, the mean, standard deviation, confidence interval, and you are presenting it in a way that you are addressing one problem, but actually there are many things that the data tells, but you don't know. So, and this is, right now we can name it, or we can just pay attention to it as software is creating a problem to us when we are presenting, because there is things behind the line. So we have always have to look at the things which are not obvious. But thank you. Thank you, Hadil, and thank you, Nadir.
Thank you so much,
You're very
Dr.
welcome.
Ahmed. Thank you, Hadil. And that's an excellent one. And I just want to comment on Ahmed's points. One point is if you want to collect the data, there's tools. One of them is SPSS. But you can use simple software like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheet. You can get the variables, the same view with the data view, and you can run some statistical analysis test using Excel or using Google Sheet. But these are very limited. So you can use it for the very simple questions. You can use Excel and add statistic to that, or you can use Google Sheet and add statistic to that. If you want to go advanced, then SPSS will have the capability of doing extra, as Hadil was showing us. And these tools very powerful. So one of them SPSS, one of them JUMP, one of them R, could be stats, other tools that you can use down the road. But for us at this level, we want to start with the basics, and then as we advance, as you become resident, fellow, and attending, as Dr. Ahmed mentioned, then you think about your data. At that level, you will talk about data management. You have to think about storing your data, how you analyze your data the first time, the second time, and you will ask a statistician to look at your data. So it's kind of could be a little bit complex. But for now, let's focus on the basics and build on that. Thank you, guys. I would like to introduce Dr. Khulud Ahmed, also a new fellow. Please, if you have a minute, tell us something about yourself, Dr. Khulud. Welcome.
Hi, assalamu alaikum. Sorry, my camera have some problem. Maybe next time.
That's all right.
So I'm Khulud Ahmed. I'm from University of Jazeera, batch 24. I'm still working on my steps. I did not It's very difficult to do my eras and so many things. So I'm going on that. I hope I will do that. And thank you so much for everybody. And happy to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Khulud, and welcome. Good to have you. All right. Let's see if there is any questions or any comments in the chat. Ali, can you help me with that?
Yes, sure. No questions so far, but I think there is also a new fellow who might introduce herself. Please, Samah.
Please go ahead.
Hello,
Hello.
how are you? Thank you, all of you. I am Samah Yusuf. I graduated from Sudan and I did residency in anesthesia in Sudan. Then I work in Saudi Arabia and now I am here in the USA trying to apply to the match this year. Thank you to give me this chance. It's very informative. I'm very, very happy to join you. And thank you so much.
Thank you and welcome, Samah. Good to have you. Thanks. You're welcome. So for the next 2 parts, if we can talk a little bit about research question, and then we will talk about the projects. Before we go there, I want to show you some of the features of the app that we are using. So I'm going to walk you on using the app, just the basics of it, and then we can talk about the question. So in the introduction or intro, you can add your biography. That can be done now or later when we are approaching the end of the fellowship. This is where you want to present yourself to others, other network, and people can look at your brief summary of what you've done and so forth. So down there, I will have some tasks, and we started with the first task about Excel video tutorial. So if you want to watch that video, you can look at that and follow the basics of that. And this will be followed by videos on Word if you don't have any. If you have the skills, that's fine. And then the last one will be about PowerPoint. And then we will jump into more tasks according to what we need to do. Below that, the circles that we talked about, if you want to focus on certain task or tool or skill, you can join some of these circle. And if you have the experience and you want to contribute by tutoring or teaching or helping people in that area, you can be a circle manager or leader in that area. Then you go to the main page here. So this is just a video about the circles. And then we have some notifications every now and then. We'll put some notification about what's happening and so forth. For instance, June 29th, we asked Dr. Haq, he's a MSU faculty also, to present us some presentation and question and answer kind of discussion about the research question, how to develop a research question, how to come up with an idea about a research project, and then how you assess that, how you can apply what Dr. Abuzal and Hiba were talking about, the steps of picking up a study design. So you think about the question, and next step is you think about how you pick up one of these study design for your question. Maybe it's just a simple case report, so you think about the case that you saw, and then you look up the literature and ask the question, and then try to present that. That's the next meeting will be Tuesday at 2 o'clock. If you can attend, that would be great. If you are not able to, we will record that, so you will follow that meeting when you have a chance. Then we can add some videos. Let's say last week we had a meeting. We recorded that. It will be shown here in the recent videos. Dr. Shumi made a video about her project. She was working on some vaccine awareness in Detroit area and hesitancy and other aspects. So she was answering some questions. So you can view that. If you have time, you can look up more videos if you want to see more. These videos also can be categorized or sorted according to what you think you need. Let's say you want to further advance your skill in Excel. You click on Excel. These are a list of some suggested videos. If you want to add, let's say you found something out of this group, you click on here and you can add some videos if you think this is a good one. But in general, if you have time, these are short videos. If you want to spend some time on it, that would be great. You can click on presentation about statistic. We were just talking about SPSS. You can look at that whenever you have chance. And this is just as we go on, you build on your skills or skill sets in each area. If you want to look at all the videos, you can click here and you can select a certain group and then you can, but we have a lot of them, so I don't want you to be overwhelmed with all these videos. In the future, we will talk about other aspect of the fellowship. We want you to attend some of the grand rounds at Sparrow, MSU, or at neurology grand rounds. So we will put some dates or link so that you can log into and attend these meetings. Below here, we were talking about just the question about how to come up with a research question. So what I think is good is to look at what we had in the past. So these are actually two or three MSU students presented abstracts. So you can look at the videos here, or some of the fellows in the first batch presented this for abstract as posters. So you can look at this. If you still want, if you want to look at different previous presentation or posters, we have also some list. I can add that or provide that to you. But this is the basics of what we are doing. If you want to use the first step or the initial app features. There are other things, as we said. Let's talk about timeline. What we think is good for you is to go over what you need to complete your ERAS application, what you think is useful to add to your application. In addition to what skills that you need to be a good researcher when you start residency, when you get into fellowship and become attending and so forth. So we will start with the basic, as I said, for example, the Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and then we will go into how you present, the skills of presentation, the ways of improving that. Some of you are good in presenting, but always there is there is room for improvement. And as we saw, we will touch on some of the statistics. Then we will talk about some interview tips or skills when we approach the time when there is the actual application for ERAS, and how you do that In last year, we talked about virtual communication skills and interview skills. Not sure next season for interview is going to be still virtual or in person. Hopefully, the skills that you will learn or obtain will help you either or. And we can build up on this timeline. For instance, we can work on your skills as far as leadership or other aspects. We work with this model where you will obtain the knowledge, you will gain the skill, and you will try to teach that skills and share it with others. And this approach will benefit you when you become a resident and senior resident and fellow, because in the beginning, as a first year resident, you will be asked to do some, let's say, procedure. You want to get some blood, or you want to do a lumbar puncture or some. So the senior will teach you how to do that. So you will educate yourself, someone will train you. The approach is see one, do one, teach one. So this is the 3 steps. If you did learn the procedure, you did it, and you taught it to someone else, you will be the expert in that procedure, basically. So we will use the same approach as far as what we need to learn about. This is breakdown by week to week. This might apply for some of you, or some of you might say, oh, I already have the skills in this area. So for you, we want you to jump into the area where you think you will improve on or need to improve on. So some of you might jump all the way from here to the basics of the statistics. So there are videos, or you want to practice with, we have like if you want to work on SPSS, for instance, you can buy that, or there is a 1 month free version. You can log into the website where you create your account and play around with some of, they have sample data. You can use this sample data and so forth. So you can, if you have some of the basic skills here, you want to go to the advanced skills, feel free as well. Last part I want to talk about is what can we do now, because we want to use the time from now until the interview season efficiently. We want you to grab as much as possible features, add it to your resume, so that when you apply through ERAS, you will be a good fit, or at least a good, attractive candidate for them. So one area we want you to go for certificate programs. We can speak about that later. Some of you already reached that level. They have master in some areas or certificate in areas. That's something that you think about. But what we can do as a group is everyone can do some volunteer work. I know with COVID kind of limited, but you can try this Red Cross, for instance, or organization like American Medical Association or Alzheimer organization, to call them, see if you want to become a volunteer. Sometimes they have activities, let's say walking for Alzheimer. So join them in your area when they have some activity, and be as a volunteer and put it in your resume. You know about the observership, networking. If you have made your list of programs that you are interested in, try to call or find out some of the residents in that program and see what they are doing, or what their activities were, what they do in leisure time, etc. Something else you want to think about is membership. So this fellowship about geriatrics, so we suggest that you paint yourself that you are interested in geriatric. Whether or not you want to continue in that field or not, down the road you will decide. But for now, let's focus on present yourself as you are interested in geriatrics. So if you have some membership to organizations that work with geriatric population that might be good in your resume and support your work and support your fellowship now in this time of your career. There are free courses, online courses. While you are waiting until it has opened, you can join some of these courses. Harvard, for instance, offers some 1 week course or a couple of hours courses or whatever. Try to attend this. Some you might pay for them. It's up to you. See if it's useful for you to put in your resume. Again, hobbies or languages, you can think about obtaining some or learning some of these. If you think about something else, please go here and add whatever you think is beneficial to the rest of the fellows. This is what I want to share with you briefly about the app. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Nadir, for this comprehensive review. Thank you. We learn a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're muted, Dr. Nadir.
Oh, sorry. So we will go to the next section, but if you have questions, jump in. So I know you are in the phase, some of you, where you're thinking about a project or how can I come up with an idea? So we still, our plan is to give you some time, 1 week, 2 weeks, to think about what you can come up with an idea or so for a project. Again, there is a list of posters presented, and we can share some of the student or resident posters presented in the past. These are examples you can use, but you can think about looking at some of the journals. The New England Journal, for example, they have some topics. Maybe we can replicate this. It's up to you what you want to do. We have other faculty members. They have their own projects. Maybe down the road, we can ask them to see if they want your support. So you jump into a team where you work with these mentors, get your project with them. Any questions or any comments? Next section, we will talk about what we are doing now, the ongoing project.
Hello? Can I add a few things?
Yes,
Hello?
please.
And so, like for picking up your research project, simply think of the discipline you are interested in. Okay, and it is simple. Then you start reading about it. So the thing you are interested in, it doesn't mean that you know everything about it. It's just you are interested in this branch of medicine. And by the way, for example, if right now I'm doing a fellowship in geriatrics, the discipline is branching into the others. So you could pick the things in geriatrics that interest you. For example, cardiovascular, nephrology, something related to medication, side effects. Having said that, you are also, I want you to have your career plan. And if we didn't have one, we have to have a session about the career plan. For example, the 1 year and the long term, like a 5-year career plan. This is important because having such a career plan will make you obligated to do certain things. And this will make you to concentrate on your short-term and long-term goals. And I will remind you, whenever you achieve one of your goals, reward yourself and go ahead and do the other one. There are many. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you.
So we can jump into the next section. I think Lubaba can add some update on her project and her team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nadir, for the opportunity, and thank you, Dr. Abdulrahim, for the advice. I can't agree more. We need to work on our goals and career plans. In regards to the project that we are currently doing is COVID vaccine awareness in Sudan. We finalized the survey, and I think we're going to share it with the team to send it out and find out for the result. Maybe in the upcoming 3 weeks, we will find some answers to the questions to direct our first session for the webinar with SAPA. Thank you so much. I would like to really appreciate and thank our team. They were very enthusiastic and they did great with the survey. I don't want to mention names, so I won't forget anyone, but the team did great, and thank you so much. I look forward to work with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lubaba. Any other comments?
Can I have a question?
Yes, please go ahead.
I have a question regarding the professional organization related to geriatric. I'm really interested in joining one of them. If there is any specific criteria to join this organization, or just look at the website and create an account or something like that? I can't hear you, Dr. Nader.
Good question. Thank you. So yes, you are right. The idea of joining some of these organization is good in your resume, and hopefully it will help you know something about geriatric and contribute to the field and contribute to the organization. So some of them, let's say American Medical Director Association, this is a free membership. If you join as a graduate, it's free for you. Some of them, you can, for instance, they have the national and then they have a chapter for the state. So you can join both, and both of them are free. AGS, American Geriatric Society, they have fees, I think 65 or something, if you want to become a member, but you can become an e-member, electronic member. There is a slight difference between them. And for that, I think it's free for e-membership. Some other organization, let's say American Medical College of Physicians or gerontology, they have their own fees for graduates. So if you are a medical student, maybe it's $60. If you are a graduate, maybe it's $100, something like that. So you look at some of the website, see which one you are interested in, and then join them. If you find something that we did not list here, you can click on membership and then put the name and the title and maybe the link where people can look at that organization. Same with what we can think, what else we can do to improve our resume. Yeah, you can add that. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Someone raise hand. Sarah Ahmed.
Hi. I want just to ask whether we will get an access to the journals, or like to download the SPSS like in our laptops? Is there anything like that available? My next question, sorry, I missed the beginning, like the first 5-10 minutes of this meeting, but how I will get in contact with my team? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Excellent questions. So let me start with the second part. For your team, each one of us has a team, and then the team has a leader or more than one leader. So you can use their email, contact them, or they can give you their phone, and then you can use a WhatsApp group or other means of communication. So look at your the app again. When you go to the intro, it will list your name here. Below there, you will have, if I see it, oops, maybe it's, anyways, I will forward you the team member. So you will have your team leader somewhere. The question about the SPSS and the journal, unfortunately, we don't have budget to buy this for you. So this is why I ask you to, when you are ready to, let's say, work on SPSS, they will have a free version for 1 month. So dedicate that time to work on Excel, SPSS during that period. It's free. You can download and work on it, and then after a month it will go away. But at least you will have the knowledge of how to. As far as journals, we don't have also access. You can get the articles that you want to. There are some of them free. If you cannot access, you can contact me or sue me. We have access to the library at MSU, and we can be able to get a version of that article for you and send it your way. So there is a behind the door way to get certain articles for you guys if you have access to it. Okay, Ali, and then Dina. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Nader. I just have a question for Dr. Abdurrahim. Would it be a negative thing on my CV if I maybe I did the research in, let's say, surgery or psychiatry, and I'm interested in medicine, for instance, or it would be, let's say, not of much value during application to residency. I didn't mean post-residency and fellowship. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. So I will answer you from my experience. In your general application, put all your experience. And of course, some of us did the rotational housemanship, which is you do, for example, OBGYN, general surgery, ortho, ENT, and all that. But in your personal statement, so it should be individualized. Because if you're applying to general surgery, you should concentrate on your experience in general surgery. If it is, for example, internal medicine, you have to concentrate on that. And we come to the issue of interview. So when you individualize your personal statement, then it comes to the interview. And nowadays, of course, there is virtual interview as well. So in that, you, in addition to what you have written on your personal statement, you have to rehearse some stories about your interest. For example, if you are applying to internal medicine, okay, for sure, they will ask you about an interesting case you have experienced, you have an interesting question you have solved. And one of the commonest questions, tell us a case that you have. So in that case, that is your chance to shine, and that is your chance to show that you are interested in medicine, and that is your chance to know that you have some knowledge in that branch of medicine. For example, if you are being interviewed at Howard University Hospital, for example, and they will ask you, so one of the things you put in your mind, for example, sickle cell anemia, because it is common in, for example, African American. And in the management, they will ask you, so you will answer, you will mention something that address the question from clinical and basic sense. For example, you will say, we admit the patient and we hydrate the patient. When you say this word hydration, for example, they say, oh, he knows. He knows that the cell are sticking in the vessels. He knows that this patient is not dehydrated. So he didn't say rehydration, he say hydration. So I want you to think along these lines. I hope I answered the question. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this point. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, and we am followed by Lina.
Thank you.
Yes, salam alaikum. I have a question, Dr. Nader, about the online observership, please. Can you shed some light on that? And are there a good opportunity to generate new letter of recommendation, and how the program director or the interview, how they view observership versus externship? Thank you very much.
So to answer this, there are a couple of options. You can look up some of the internet. Some programs are offering some online observership for fees. Some of them are really bad in a sense. They focus on the fees rather than the experience or the educational part. And these are, if I will say, blacklisted. So if you go to this, when you apply to the programs, they will know last year people went there and paid money and they did not learn anything. So they will say, oh, this is not a good candidate because you went through the bad people. But I think could be some good observership there. Personally, I don't know a program that I can recommend, but please reach out to the fellows before and any other network that you can try to connect so that they can give you feedback. The other thing I would advise is you want to locate in the area. If you are in the US, in your area where you live, try to go to the hospital or clinic or somewhere and contact them and see if they can accept you in a couple of months or so, where you spend half a day with them just rounding, and then see if they can give you the exposure and also recommendation from that point of view. If you are looking at only recommendation letters as far as research, as I said, we have a couple of other faculty members who are working on some projects. So if you join one of these faculty members and you show them that you are a hard worker and achieve some of the goals of their projects, then they will be happy to write recommendation letters for you. That's a good question. Thank you. And I'll go back to Sarah. Your question. Here's when you log into your intro, if you go down, you will see the members of your team, and the leaders are Dr. Khalid Osman and Tamadur. So you will click on Khalid, and I think you will find his email, and you can start communication that way, and hopefully you can get also WhatsApp or other ways of communication. Lina, if you want to go ahead, and followed by Anna.
Thank you, Dr. Nader. I actually had the same question like we am, so I think you answered it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Amal Khadir.
I have a question that my experience is in ER only, and I'm going to apply to internal medicine. Is this will be a problem, or they can share of some features, so it will be accepted in internal medicine application?
So if you work only in Riyadh, let's say hospital, I think there are a couple of factors. Is how long you spend there and what type of work you did. This is what the program director or interview team or committee will look at your CV and appreciate that point. So when you fill in your ERAS application, there is a section where you try to put as much detail about what you are doing, what experience, what skills you learned during this period. And hopefully this will convince them that you are a good person to fit their programs. Thanks. And Dr. Ahmed, please jump in if you want to add any comments or suggestions. Thank you.
No, thank you, Nadia. You nailed it. Thanks.
Thank you.
I
So,
have,
you have another question or go ahead.
this may
Amna? Abir.
Yeah, I don't know if it's okay to ask clinical question related to geriatrics so we can learn clinical knowledge alongside with this research. Can I ask this clinical question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, my question, if there is any gold standard test to differentiate between Alzheimer dementia and Lewy body dementia, like test-wise, like CT or MRI or what's called any test, or it should be cumulative between diagnostic test and physical exam?
So the basic answer is you take the history and 70% of your answer will be there. If not, then the exam will show you some additional findings. And then the CT scan and MRI will give you a little bit of extra information. But to come to the gold standard, I think it's just brain biopsy and look at what's actually there. So this is a simple answer for the question. Thank you so much. And I want to also highlight another aspect of this fellowship. As we said, we are focusing on the research part, less on the clinical part, but we still want to learn something about the geriatric medicine because we're gonna see patients, older patients with medical problems. So down the road, we will get some geriatric teaching slides where they have topics according to the geriatric syllabus or main areas to focus on in this population. So these topics are listed in GRS, we call it, in the form of slides or PowerPoint slides. In the short, let's say in a month or two, we will ask you when you are ready to look at these aspects. Each one will have a slide there. They will focus on reading about the slide or the topic, so they will know the concept or the basics or the clinical aspect of management of that area. Not only the knowledge of internal medicine is required from you, but at the same time, we will ask you to work on presenting that slide topic as Dr. Abuzar and Hiba did now. And you can record that in a video format, and then every fellows will look at that, review that presentation, and will gain the knowledge by looking at what you are presenting. But at the same time, they can give you feedback as far as how well did you do your presentation. So we want you to focus also on the skills of presentation, how you can work on making the slides active, how you can convert part of it to be interactive, or how you want to look at yourself as far as your speed of your flow, your tone, and other aspects. So it's kind of two aspects to learn from the GRS slides, teaching slides. Sorry, thank you. I want to just raise the point again. The meeting officially will end in 5 minutes, but we will continue. If you have to leave, that's well and good. I know some people might have kids or other tasks in their head. Please feel free to do that. If you want to look at what we will be talking after this meeting, we will continue, but this is recorded, so you can come back to the web, to the app again and look at the video and watch the section where you missed it if you want to catch up. So don't feel like you are left out. Any other questions or any other comments? Dr. Mohammed Tijani, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Nadir, for your time. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Just a quick question about access to attend the grand round neurology. Kind of a technicality more than the process itself. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. That's a good question. So for the neurology grand round, usually I get an invitation, a link with like similar to the Zoom now we are doing. So I will just forward that to who is interested in attending these meetings. So you just click on the link and you will be in the meeting. I think it starts 7:30 in the morning though. So some people might have difficulty attending that. For people in Sudan, I think it might be on the Gulf a good time. I'm not sure, but and the same for the grand round, internal medicine grand round at Sparrow. They do that on Tuesdays. I think every other Tuesday from 12 to 1 o'clock by New York time. Thank you. Good question.
Let me to add just another question. Can this still count as positive part of your EMS application, attending these virtual clinic ground rounds?
I think it shows that you are interested in the area, let's say internal medicine or neurology. At the same time, it will add the point where some people might say we have a gap. So to fill that gap, when you attend this kind of grand rounds, you will be in touch with the clinical aspect. And I think that's also a good thing for some people who are busy or not involved in clinical activities for certain period. Good question. Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions or any comments? I'm not sure, Ahmed, in Mayo Clinic, do you have clinical or grand rounds that you get Zoom links or invitation that we can share with the group so that at least they have more than one MSU and Mayo in their CV?
Yes, I will. Definitely, I will look for this experience, okay? And also I will look for any courses that can benefit our group as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And one part also in doing or attending this type of grand rounds, it will prepare you. Some of you, you're already in the medical field in the US, so you know how the staff, residents, students, and so forth work. But some might not know this team approach. This will be when you attend these grand rounds, you will see the interaction live between the students, the fellows attending, and the specialists in the area on the topic, for instance. And you will see how they handle let's say the comment, if you want to add a comment, how you start with thanking the presenter and then put your comment and then maybe ask a question or so, something like that. So all this you will learn when you attend this grand rounds. It will be not only beneficial from the clinical aspect and into your ERAS application, but also as a way of communication when you will be a resident and move forward, you will be a fellow, and then maybe you will be the presenter. You will answer question when you present certain topics in the area that you are expert in. Thanks.
Add a little thing. Yes, this is important, and the fact that to attend the clinical grand rounds at this time, it is of importance. Simply because if you are a rounding physician and you are just listening to your fellows or resident or to your nurses, you have at least 5 to 10 questions unanswered. This could be social, related to medicine, related to many things. So it is always that the point I want to make is you don't know everything. So you need to know like where to find the answer. It could be a colleague as a consult, and it could be like you go to UpToDates or any other software. So one of the things I want you to put in mind is UpToDates. From now, if you have an access to UpToDates, that will be fine. Nadir and I will work so as for you to have an UpToDates access. Just to answer your question, you can answer almost every question from UpToDates. This is one, but it is important to talk to a colleague, for example, to talk about the concept of certain things. For example, if someone comes to you complaining of chest tightness, then chest tightness, so you are gonna just to put it into category or headache. Oh, chest tightness. Oh, let me treat it as a chest pain, and I will ask about the 6 characteristics of chest pain that will lead me to certain path. Headache, oh, the headache. Let me ask about the intensity radiation and other association risk factor to see, is it a migraine or it is tumor or is it something just tension headache. So attending the grand rounds, it will give you skills. And the skills is something you, like, it is not one thing. You have to repeat in order to have a good grasp of that. I would like to find a connection between the fellowship you are doing right now and the clinical life you are going to lead later on, maybe in 3 months, 6 months, or even right now, some of you might practice medicine, clinical. You read more and you go back to, for example, New England Journal of Medicine. And by the way, they have weekly audio program. So you should listen to that. That is very important. And by the way, I learned about New England Journal of Medicine from my friend Nadir in Jazeera University. Nadir, if you remember. Yeah. So what I try to make is there is something called critical appraisal. This is in statistics, and we should have talked about this. This is a systematic examining of any research paper. Because right now, up within this fellowship, and after it, I want you to examine any paper you read. And you say, is this author use the right statistic? To your surprise, you will find a lot of things this paper shouldn't be written like this. So we should have talked about this, and this thing we learn it from the we learn it from the clinical rounds, we learn it from our discussion, and we learn it from reading UpToDates and other resources. Thank you. I hope I didn't talk a lot on this or take from your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. This is really great, and feel free. We want to share as much experience and advice and suggestions from everyone. So we already passed the 2-hour mark. So whoever stay, I assume you are interested in learning more. Muhammad Tijani, do you have other questions? Your hand is up, or any comments? I know you have some experience in your institution, at least.
No, thank you so much. Thank you. I just forgot to lower my hand. Thank you so much again, Dr. Nadir, Dr. Ahmed, and my fellow in the
Sounds
group.
good. Sounds good. Hiba, you have a question. Before you jump into that, let me just comment on Dr. Ahmed last section where he was raising the point of journal appraisal or article appraisal. We, in the past year for the fellows first batch, we touched on that by the end of the fellowship. So we plan to do that also maybe earlier, but we want you to learn the basics. And then as we advance, we want you to think about things critically and then think about how you publish. And when you are at that level, we want you to think about what the reviewer will say, what the reader will critique your work. To do that, I think Ahmed's point is very valid, where you want to read more, you want to know how to analyze and critique certain, let's say, articles. And there are some tools to do that. So we will discuss this in the future, hopefully in a couple of months or so, when you are ready at that level. Thank you so much. Now it's yours, then, if you want to ask questions. Sorry. Hiba, did you want to?
Yes, sure. I'm really sorry. I just don't know for the reaction. I just clap my hands and I want to raise my hand and I don't have this icon. Sorry, I was clapping.
Sorry, no, that's okay.
Really bad in
Please.
technology, so excuse
So
me, guys.
no problem.
I'm learning on
You're
you.
just learning while you okay. Now testing if you are awake or not. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I have a question for you, and this is regarding the old population. So, from your perspective, do you think like COVID impact the healthcare that's provided to the old population, and that's from the healthcare professional, and the other side, does this impact their health situation from a disease-wise and a psychological perspective?
So maybe I didn't got the question right. But
Okay,
if,
let me reform it.
Yep,
So
yeah.
yeah, I think it's a little bit confusing. So yeah, do you think like COVID impact the healthcare that provided for the old population? And this is from the health professional side, like because of COVID, it's impacted the health professionals, the health personnel. So as a consequence, the care they provide for the old population deteriorated. That's my question, and deteriorated into. I would like to ask: is it like psychological or disease or both of them?
Yeah. So yeah, the impact of COVID on. So there are two parts here. If you are talking about the impact of COVID on the health and mental and other aspects on the older population as only patients, that's one part of the question. The other way to look at it, the impact of COVID on the health professional who are taking care of these patients. So the personnel or the healthcare worker. For the first part of the question, if that's a question, I think we learned a lot about COVID in the past year, more than a year, and we have some hassles, some difficult times, because we did not know and because we did not have the equipment. And then we studied and equipment were available. So we were able to control it somehow. And with the invention of some of the vaccines, the number reduced. So the impact initially was hard on older population in general, in Black, African American, other communities more than white folks. So yes, there is a great effect or impact on the patient population when they are older. We have some studies, and Dr. Shumi and her team work on the effect on older patients and risk factors. The other part of your question, if you are focusing on the healthcare worker, I think the impact also was both major on the physical as well as the mental. Some of the physicians working in this environment, let's say hospital ICU, not only the physicians, but other workers like nurses or staff members were working basically 24 hours to catch up with the limited staff. Even they ask other specialties to chip in or to contribute because they were not enough expertise in the to handle all the number of patients in big cities, for instance. So surgeons were running ICUs, for instance. So that part was affecting definitely the people who were working these long hours. Some people, they did not take vacation. They were basically hanging in the hospital. They take just time to sleep at their home and then come back. Same way for nurses, but I think more effects, psychological effect on nurses. And sometimes we see nursing staff or other staff member who quit because they see the system is collapsing and they were working very hard to overcome the problem of patients dying. And if you cannot do, even if you made the effort, the whole 100% of your effort, and you see things are not working for you, you will definitely have a depression or other bad ill effect psychologically. So I agree with you. It's hard. It was a very hard impact on both group. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Dr. Nader, for this.
Mohammed Tijani, you have question or comment, please?
Yes, Dr. Nader, if you allow me to just direct the question a little bit, or the same question, to push the discussion in a different way. Your input, you and Dr. Ahmed, on how COVID-19 affected last year residency programs and your predictions, if I can take your, if based on the current data, definitely, of the next year, upcoming year of applying for residency. Thank you so much. Always appreciate your feedbacks.
Thank you so much for the question. I'll let Ahmed go ahead, and then I will follow with some comments. Ahmed, if you can answer, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. It's really, and also thank you for Hiba. This question is big question, and let me move between, if I understand right, from Dr. Mohammed's question and Hiba. So let's start with Mohammed's question. It affects residency program. And if you see that here at Mayo, most of the interviews are virtual. So here they are talking about, are we getting the right candidates? We need to interact with candidates face-to-face. Virtual may not give us the full picture, or we might not have time to interact more because they talk to you about your experience and then they will invite you for a dinner and there is more exposure, right? Definitely it affects the quality of individuals, if I understand your question right. And also it put a lot of pressure on the faculty, okay? They might even, when you choose the right candidate, what I mean is not the USMLE score. No, this candidate is how genuine he wants to join the program. That is another dimension. People don't think about it. It affects all the staff. But if there is a positive way I could tell about COVID, using the mask, people get less flu this year, the staff. Like last year, I'm getting it like 3 times because I get infected from the patient. But right now, knock on the wood, like I didn't get flu. And this is because I'm wearing the mask all the time. But let us think and go back to Hiba's question. COVID changed the world. It affects the economy. But this is not what the question is about. It's about the healthcare. You know, if you start back home, Sudan, people get affected by COVID, not because of COVID, but because people neglect the other diseases like diabetes, okay, hypertension, and all the other emergencies. Because if you just have a flu-like symptoms, then they take you from hospital to hospital, and then you end up dying at home. For example, they call me a patient who has renal failure, and he is at home. How he's gonna die anyway if he hasn't been taken to the hospital and dialysis has been initiated and so on. So in the third world or in our back home and other countries, people are affected of COVID because we are not dealing with the complication of other common diseases other than COVID, like diabetes and its complication. But here the story is different. I see the patient on the clinic, and really if some patients have DVTs, and if we look carefully, COVID is incriminated in this because they are not moving us. They are depressed. It tips the balance of people who are having post-traumatic stress disorder or have been treating with other psychological illnesses, psychiatric illnesses. Their balance has been tipped, and right now they are a burden because of COVID, because they cannot join the other programs that help them cope with the community. So we don't know the extent of it right now, but it is big. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. I agree with you 100%. As far as programs, residency programs, the virtual encounter is totally different from the actual when you go there. In the past, and the year before, usually what happens is they invite you, you see or meet the program director and the team or the interviewer panel. And then after that, they will show you the hospital. Before one day, you will meet the residents and the chief resident. So you will have a very long time for you to assess the program, look at the people, see their interaction, look at the hospital and the team and so forth, the dynamics and the area. So you can check, oh, this is a good program for me, or this is lower in the list. And same for the program director and program interview committee and chief president, is when they look at you in a group or individually for the interview, when they let you, let's say, join the grand round or round with them in the hospital, they are focusing on other aspects of your personality, on interaction, and etc., which is very limited when you have the interview virtually, because during the interview they have, let's say, 10 minutes or 20 minutes. Is very, very limited, and this limitation was kind of two-edged, if I may. When it depends on how skillful you are in front of the camera, you're using your body language, your other skills with the interview. And then the interviewer will have very limited time to ask certain questions and assess you, and then go to the next. So it's kind of from their point, they can get a good virtual candidate where he is or she is a good actor, basically, versus when they get you to the program, maybe you don't have a good communication skills with team members or something like that. So you will be a problem for them when they get you actually to the program. So they fear of that. On the side for the interviewee or the applicant like you, if you don't have the skills of communicating in front of the camera, or if you have, let's say, difficult technical issues, then you will be out of the equation, basically, because you missed this part because of the skills in front of the camera or other technical problems. And the program will lose you because you, in fact, you are a good fit for that program, but they can remove you from the list because of X, Y, and Z. You did not do this in front of the camera, let's say. This is why we focus when we talk about the interview skills, communication skills, and also in front of the camera. And we want you to practice all this so that at least you will show them your abilities in front of the camera, and they assess you on that aspect. They can look at your CV and erase application and mark, yes, this is, but also they want to make sure you are a good fit for the team approach and other, you get along well with other team members. Sometimes I ask you, what happens if your senior says something and you disagree with them? So kind of a scenario where you can answer these questions to your advantage, for example. Thank you. Sorry, it's a long answer.
Thank you so much. May I add another question?
Yes, please.
One of the things I was trying to explore behind this question, which is something I heard from a friend of mine, that last year programs were just looking for when they left over basically spots for somebody ready to go because of the COVID, because of the complications and the difficulty of getting somebody a visa, he's overseas or she's overseas. They were willing to compromise their searching criteria. So I'm just trying to check, with this true, or you ever heard of this, or to which extent do you think this can apply to next year residency program? Thank you so much for both of you, Dr. Nader and Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you. This is a good question, but unfortunately, I don't have connection with programs like the residency program as I used to, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But in general, as in the past, when programs, especially in May, June time, where if there is an applicant that they accepted and they have problem with visa, then they will be, yes, searching for anyone to cover the slot or the position starting July, because they need someone to do the work. Ahmed, if you want to add any additional comment, please.
I'm not sure if I have an answer to this question, but the ones who are here have more chances, like the foreign medical graduates, for example. I think they have more chances to get into residency, especially in post-match opportunities. Yeah, I guess that will be the story. Thank you.
And again, in the past batch, there were some skills or ways to increase your chances of getting these programs who has an vacancies and something that all of a sudden they have problem with the candidates they got, and now they have a vacancy that they need to occupy or fit someone in. So there is ways to do that. So we will discuss that as we come to the matching time. And I think when fellow got matched doing that way or using that way. Thank you. Any other comments or any other questions? I'm going to ask you guys to think about the next meeting. Let's work on getting the agenda. If you have any comments or any suggestions, I think the next team will be the yellow team, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. So I'm gonna share on the screen with you guys so that we can work on. So when you go to down here, you will go, hopefully it's gonna come on. Yeah, go to the coming meetings. So in this, we will have the list of the coming meetings. So as we said on Tuesday, Dr. Hawk will present something about the questions and how you develop a study design, something like that. If you have time to attend that, that would be great. But we will talk about the week, the Saturday, July 3rd. So we can use the app same way to edit or plan for next agenda. This is just is it no, just let's see, 7.3, yes. So we need to assign some leaders for the Zoom meeting. So I will ask the green team leader to lead the meeting. Basically, what we were doing just to make things organized, keep people in line so that we can finish within the 2 hours period. The yellow team will present about cohort studies and case control. If they can talk about that in details, maybe present a case or two or article or two, that would be great. Maybe 20 minutes, half an hour. Then we will continue with doing some SPSS tutorial. If someone can show us some of the basics as far as SPSS. Also, we will continue with the brainstorming about the questions and maybe topics or projects ideas. Hopefully, you will get some information or input from Dr. Haq in this, and then we will talk about some of the projects in the past or in the future, and we will set the agenda. Anything in this agenda for next meeting that you want to add or suggest that we can do? That would be great. Thank you. So everyone in agreement? Malaz and Ali. Let's start with Malaz. Do you have question or do you have comment? And then followed by Ali.
Salam
Alaikum salam.
alaikum, Dr. Nadir. How are you? It was a very informative meeting. Thank you for you and thank you for all the presenters and thank you for Dr. Ahmed. I would like to suggest for the next meeting to talk about research topic, how I can choose research topic. And as one who have no a lot of research experience, how I can choose research design, which is easier, which will take less time, which can be made easy from this month to the which can be applied till season or can be published easier, unlike this. Thank you very much.
Excellent question. Thank you so much, Malaz. So basically, if you have time and everyone else have some time, Tuesday, Dr. Haq and the group will be discussing this topic in detail. So how can you come across an idea or a question or a topic for a research project? The thinking about that and how you can pick up a design for your research project. How can you collect the data and plan and so forth. So hopefully if you attend the meeting, you will have some detailed answer, and by Saturday, we will discuss and see if people can think about ideas and they can share that. In the meantime, as I said, we will just let you think about what your goal, the short plan and long plan, and think about areas where you think you might feel comfortable and you want to pursue. So, for instance, I don't want to tell you, here's a project about renal disease and whatever, and Dr. Ahmed will be your mentor, and go ahead for that. And in your back of your head, you'll say, oh, I'm not interested in nephrology or renal. I'm interested, really excited about cardiology. So that doesn't match your interest with what we have, something like that. So think and attend the next meeting. As far as selecting ways of doing a research in the coming months or so, we will try to come up with some projects that are ongoing from other areas. We will collaborate with other mentors at MSU. Hopefully, Dr. Ahmed will have some connection also or collaboration with other people who are doing research. We want to get you involved remotely, which is kind of another thing. It's kind of a barrier. We have people here at MSU, they want someone to help them. So if you are in the area, you can come, jump and go right away, join a project there, and it will be helpful. But the issue, there's no one here in Lansing. And this, I think, for many researchers, they want the person in the building inside. And our idea is to get you involved in a project where you can do that remotely. There are many things limit that, IRB approval, other security measure or whatever. So we will work on getting you some projects available so that you can join some. Past year, we come across different projects. Some of them were done because we collected some data from Sparrow Hospital, and we have access to do that. So if we have an idea and we have the data, we can get some of the data from Sparrow Hospital. And I think we can do the same with Mayo Clinic if Dr. Ahmed is willing to also work with that. If you have an idea to get some patients with, let's say, renal failure and whatever, then we can ask him to get access to a certain group of patients and get information and the data, and we can get the project going. So this is how it works. We need someone actual, and then the group will work on the project, other task of the projects remotely. But we can talk about that in the future also. Ali, you can go ahead and then followed by Shumi. Ahmed, do you have any comments? Sorry.
Okay.
Ahmed wants to add something, and then Ali and Shumi. Sorry.
I'm trying to remember. Malaz mentioned something about research and the word simple, and then yes, we have to simplify our approach to research, but it is a big thing. Like, even if you say, I'm not doing research, actually you are doing it in the fields of medicine. This is a concept I want you to know. And when you are involved in it, then you're knowing the tools and you are practicing it in a systemic way. Any one of you could be an expert in one discipline or one topic. For example, if you take multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer, okay, glomerulonephritis, if you myocardial infarction, if you read the whole literature about this, you are an expert. How you do that? I want you to know the systemic reviews. This is also, and I see a very nice thing done last year about the meta-analysis and systemic reviews. This is one of the tools we should know about, because those who write book chapters, and actually they are good at meta-analysis and systemic reviews. And this is, I just want to draw your attention to this kind of things. Because even if you are doing a clinical research from scratch, before you start generating your data, you review literature, okay? And you're doing kind of systemic reviews and meta-analysis. So we will plan to have Nadir some deep talk about this. And there is a lot of issues come with it. So Malaz, you ask a very important question. Yes, all of us, we learn every day. We like to take the research serious, simple approach, but at the same time, every day you will get deeper and deeper. And once you research the fact and you know it, you own it, and you are the leader then. Thank you. Thank you. I'm disconnected or?
Thank you, Ahmed. And Ali, go ahead, and then followed by Shumi.
Okay. I do have a comment, 2 questions from the chat box. So I have sent the invitation link for WhatsApp group in the chat box for the new fellows and those who have not joined yet. Please join the WhatsApp group. The idea behind it is to discuss new ideas and meetings and so on. And then you have the mini WhatsApp group for your sub teams. The 2 questions were about the next presentation. Dr. Haig's presentation. So is it intended for the Telegeriatric Fellowship or the part of the Sparrow curriculum? This is the first one. And also, will we have access with the same link and password we already have it for this meeting? So other one. Thank you.
I think you are muted.
Yeah, sorry. I'll start with the second question Ali mentioned, which is the meeting link. The presenter, Dr. Raza Haq, will be focusing on you guys. So this is just an invitation for him to work with you. So he will be joining you and trying to share his experience and how to basic the skills of getting a topic and then starting a project and how you design the project and so forth. So basically, this is how the presentation will be going from 2 to 3. Hopefully, it will be 2 parts. One part where he will educate you, and then one part will be kind of a question and answer session where you ask him question and maybe he can answer some of these questions. The link will be this research question and study design. You click on it and we will add the password here. So if you go to the app Tuesday, you will have the link and it will be different than the Saturday meetings. Thank you. Shami?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that next week, as it's YOLO team presentation, so I will contact with my team and update in the app that who is going to present what topics. I assume that the whole things like the case control and that part and also SPSS part, those 2 parts should be presented by YOLO team. And also I have a question, as it is a term of the YOLO team presentation. So I was asked by Ali and the group that I should give an update like how my project is going on. So as I promised that I will get back to you guys in 2-3 weeks. So that's also coming. So if in case that's as next week is a YOLO team term, so I can present that too if that works for all of us. Thank you all.
This is great. This is great. Thank you. Thank you, Swami. Any other comments or questions? So the way we set up the group, I think, or the teams. So your team will be presenting, and then the next week, let's say the green team, for instance, will be presenting. So the leader from that team, the green team, will be leading the meeting agenda. So, and it will be like that. So one team will be presenting the topics or the aspects of the meeting, and the leader from next week team will lead the meeting so that we will be in sync to organize things around. I'll be available to help here and there, but in the past, I think some of you were leading the team efficiently. Thank you. Any addition, any questions? If not, we will adjourn and we will end the meeting. Thank you so much, and really enjoyed working with you guys, and looking forward to work with everyone. Let me know if I can be of help. I'd like to thank everyone who showed up and those who did not make it. I wish you all the best, and hopefully we will see you next time. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Nader.
Thank you so much.
Very helpful. We learned
Thank
a lot.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Nader.
you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Nader. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Nader and Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you.